Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're doing another client case review, and I'm here with our longtime investor and friend, Richard Avanti. Richard, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to be here.
Yeah, well, we go back way more many years than I even want to say. So I'd love for you just to tell, some of the SI community who you are, how you and I met, and just a little bit of the work we've done together.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually talking to Jim about a week and a half ago, and it's funny, I reminded him that I still have a handful of turnkey properties
The
that they were
original.
doing before they moved into new construction. Yeah, I have them in North Jackson. I've had them for, gosh, don't even know, 12, 13 years now, somewhere, some long period of time, but I still have them in addition to tons of course, with the newer stuff. But yeah, so I've been working with Jim and SI Homes. On the lending capacity initially the last, gosh, 16, 17, 18 years. And very early on in working with them, well, firstly, I guess it makes it very easy for me to invest. It's kind of almost like insider trading, right? As the lender, I have access to the appraisal, I have access to the leases, to kind of the whole operation.
Yeah.
And in the course of doing hundreds and hundreds of loans for Jim and his team, and seeing the repeat customers, it made it very easy for me to invest in his market. And we started with some of those turnkey properties a long, long time ago, and then as they made the transition to new construction, we kind of followed suit, right?
Yeah.
I've got properties in Jacksonville and Ocala. I mean, as my mom, my brothers, my friends. I think my mom probably has five properties with you guys,
Hmm.
all over. And most recently, my brother took a property down with you guys, I think in the last couple months in Palm Bay, if I recall.
Palm Coast.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Palm Coast.
Florida's been, Palm Coast, that's right. Yeah. Florida's been a very big part of our portfolio. It's performed very well for us. Even the turnkey stuff you guys did way back then. In fact, I bought a couple of them with my partner Michael, and we were talking the other day about how, of all the turnkey stuff we've ever bought, and like a lot of us, the last decade or so, we're only really buying new construction, and we sold a lot of the turnkey stuff that we've historically bought, but we still have those. And one of them actually has the same tenants in them now for almost a decade, and we were talking about
Wow.
how well they performed. Not only have they gone up in value, but the tenant base has been strong. So yeah, part of their, in talking with Jim a week and a half ago, as I mentioned, and reminding him that, we still had a bunch of his products. I was like, why haven't I done a testimonial for you? I'm one of your longest time investors, cumulatively between myself and
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, I lost your volume.
Oh, oh, there we go. Okay, I think it came back. But yeah, we thought it was a good idea, obviously, to share my experience as an investor, as a lending partner. Someone that's done. It's got to be close to 1,000 deals in the last 15 years.
Yeah. I think that's why, Richard, I never asked you. Oh, sorry about that. I had a little bit of a microphone issue. Can you hear me now, Richard?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry about that. I think the reason I didn't ask you to do a testimonial because we worked on so many different levels together. You do some building on your own. You've done hundreds of loans for us, and so I always looked at you more as a team member, more than a client. But I'm like, wait, you have bought a lot of properties, and your family has as well. Especially, what's interesting is you're one of a handful that have gone through the gamut from old fixer uppers to single family to duplexes and quads, and you've really tasted the entire menu. And so it's what's encouraging for me is, like you said, we started working together years ago, but your brother just bought a property with us a few months ago, I think through a 1031 exchange. If
Yeah.
so you're all over the country, Richard. But right now we're doing this in the beginning of 2025. There's a lot of, and obviously you and I talk back and forth on strategy. I know you are one of the friends of mine that said, hey, there's a lot of rumor mills going on about there about Florida that I'm having to remove from the lending side, from the investor side. But you still felt comfortable like sending your brother here. Like, what are you seeing? Because you're all over the country right now. Why do you still have faith in Florida to put yourself, your family, refer friends like you do all the time to us? Why are you still doing that?
Well, I think for the same reasons why we initially invested in Florida, right? It has the strong fundamentals. It's the retirement capital of the nation, maybe of the world. And our experience has been so good there. But I think a lot of the kind of pushback, right, that I've been seeing as well as it relates to Florida is, people are like, oh, insurance is high and people are moving out in droves, and they watched one or too many late night news shows, but the statistics obviously stay quite the opposite. Now, look, has Florida gotten ravaged by storms last year? Yes, the same way California has been ravaged by fires, and the East Coast has been in their freezes, so everyone had their share of things. But what's interesting is, contrary to what everyone's hearing out, so the insurance isn't crazy high. In fact, it's pretty low. And what people don't realize is a lot of what you're hearing on the media is, people living in homes built in the 30s that are coastal, that aren't up to code, and those types of properties historically suffer, big losses, during storms. And,
Yep.
On the other side of it, you have brand new construction homes built up to code, right? Not built right up on the coastline. And the insurance actually isn't very high in Florida. And it's interesting as people tell me, oh, the insurance, it's so high. I'm like, is it? And I'll have to go and look at my own. I'm like, okay, well, yes, when I bought the property 8 years ago, the insurance was 900 a year, and like everything else with inflation today, it's 1,500 a year. But I wouldn't call that insurance high. It's higher than what we're used to, but isn't everything. Go try to buy some eggs right now. So yeah, it's proven to be obviously a good market. I think Florida, no one can argue that owning property in Florida is a big part of a balanced portfolio, right? If
Yeah.
let's say you pick 5 markets or even 4 markets across the country as an investor, and let's say you're only buying 10 or 12 properties, I'd be very surprised if Florida wasn't always, obviously on that list. But yeah, it's continued to perform well for us. It's nice, obviously, operating at the volume you guys do, it's 7 markets in one market, right? People talk about Florida also very subjectively, oh, I invest in Florida. I'm like, well, I know you guys are in like 6 or 7 markets, and so all over East Coast, West Coast, North, South, Center. So it's like you can't look at it subjectively. There's higher cash flow markets within Florida. There's more growth markets within Florida, right? And the cool thing I think is you guys offer, you know, every type of investment for every type of investor, right? And that's what was appealing to my brother as well, because I think it was his third maybe property with you guys, but it had been a couple years. He's like, well, where
Yeah.
should I invest? And I was like, well, boom, here's all the data, right? Here's performance from 5 different markets, kind of pick which one you like the most. So it makes it very easy, right? And choices are great as well. And I think through it's weird. Like I said, the sentiment for whatever reason, I think it's the news and the storms, right? Like people would be afraid right now to go, buy in coastal California, and a year from now, I know it's going to fade away. But eh, the other thing I'll say about your market, and another reason I told my brother he needs to take advantage of it, I'm telling, look, everyone out there, that you guys are buying the rates down. And look, I'm on the lending side. I partner with you guys. I know what it costs to offer those rates you guys are offering, and you pair that with the management. Um, it's a huge opportunity to anyone looking to buy, right? Getting a rate under fours, a 10-year fixed, at this day and age, I mean, even on a primary home, people would do backflips. And the cost to do it is insane, right? And when, all the tools you guys have put into place kind of to make the numbers work for an investor, right? And selling them a good quality asset, but now actually taking care of that. Well, I'm waiting for rates to come down. Well, guess what? We could probably give you a rate today that you'll never see again, even on a primary home. So, I think Florida in general, I think people have been sleeping on a little lately. I think it's the term they use, right? The Gen Z, they're sleeping on it. Um,
Yeah.
but you pair that with the financing, right? And the immediate returns that they get. And his was actually tenant occupied before he even closed.
Yeah,
It
that's
makes
right.
for a good, solid passive investment, right? Something you don't need to worry about until you get your 1099 at the end of the year. And vacancies exist. We all run into them at some point. But yeah, you can't argue with the experience we've had.
No, I appreciate that one. And I've not saying that I wouldn't want to. I've never met your mother. I've never met your brother. You and I have met up plenty of times because we do so much together, but I've never even gotten the chance to meet them. So they were really giving a trust factor through you. And I always thought it was interesting. And this is just kind of an open question. You know, you chose Jacksonville, Palm Coast, Ocala. I don't know if you did Southwest Florida, but I know did you do some in Southwest as well? But you've chosen multiple markets with this here. Why and multiple properties? Sometimes people only go with single family or duplex quads. You've done them all. I'm just curious of your investment strategy that other people could learn from here because you took us up on multiple markets and multiple types of properties.
Well, I think to what I kind of mentioned earlier, the fact that you guys offer every type of investment out there, right? From things that offer higher cash flow to things that are in, A plus areas to B areas, and every section of the workforce needs housing, right? Am I back?
You're
There we
back.
are. So every section of the workforce obviously needs housing, and I think part of a balanced portfolio is serving every section of that workforce, right? It's great to have A plus properties, neighborhoods we like to live in, but that section of the workforce is affected, right? The middle to higher income earners, when there is something going on with the economy, a lot of those people are looking to move into more affordable housing, right? And you guys have a lot of affordable housing options. So I think having a blend of that, but also having, a solid base of housing that would be not only housing serving the existing workforce, but housing that people would move down into, right? If an economy did hit, because it's hitting kind of that sweet spot, and you guys aren't doing Section 8 nonsense and all that. So when I say affordable, it's just being built to the good quality tenant base, right? The hard work and good quality tenant base. And the other thing I'll say is I came out there, and the first properties I brought in Jacks, the turnkeys, we had never came out. In fact, we went and saw them 5 years after we bought them. But before I did the last round, which was 8 or 9 years ago, I came out and I spent 2 weeks and I drove all across Florida, and I've done it twice since, right? And each sub-market has its own appeal, right? It has completely different fundamentals from the employment side to the growth side and everything else. But they also have completely different price points, right? Ocala is a completely different investment than Southwest Florida or
Yeah.
even East Florida, right? In Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, obviously, is such a big growth hub with the port and everything else happening. There's a lot of industry and a different type of fundamentals that exist, for example, in Ocala, which I love Ocala. I think Ocala is a solid market. It's been really good to us, and the numbers still work very well, in places like Ocala and center of the state. But yeah, I think having a blended portfolio. And look, I own properties all over the country as well. I know a lot of the investors do. But as I mentioned earlier, Florida is always part of that base, but it's important to not put Florida in a one box, right? That, oh, I'm investing in Florida. Okay, well, what part of Florida? Because that's going to have a different strategy depending on where you're going. And the cool thing is you could diversify within the same state and take advantage of discounts on buying, two, three, four, five properties from you guys, and the system that you step into.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and most people, you being a Californian, I was a Jersey boy. I thought all Florida was Orlando, Tampa, and Miami. That's all there was in Florida. And so all the
Yeah.
markets we're in are not those three. And so it's interesting for people to say, well, what's left? And you've toured this,
Yeah.
contrary to popular opinion, there's a lot left. And for me, I think a lot better markets. I love those three markets. It's just, and I know, it's funny you said Ocala last week. I did our predictions. And for 2025, my word's affordability. So I love all our markets, but Ocala was my top pick. And,
Mhm.
the opposite of Ocala is Orlando, Miami, and Tampa. Again, strong market.
Mhm.
Just the median price through the pandemic just attracted such volume there that it forced prices up. So, we're going to
Mhm.
miss to those, but Ocala right now is my favorite market for the year, actually. So it's funny that you brought that up. Richard,
Yeah, when I have investor and friends, obviously people in our social group know what we do, and they're like, "Hey, I want to start investing. Where should I start?" And probably for at least the last 5 years straight, my first recommendation for someone as a brand new investor is entering Ocala because it offers a good balance between cash flow and growth, an entry point. So it's definitely still top of my list as a good step into real estate investing, right?
I love hearing that. I love hearing it. So your experience, any advice you'd want to give to us as your new construction turnkey provider or other investors? I mean, you work with, I mean, you're so multifaceted in the lending, in the building, in the, personal investing, go to a lot of markets and a lot of events. What do you have any advice to help cut through it, either for us to become better or investors to take more advantage of what's available out there?
Yeah, two things. One is, in part of doing this too was that misnomer about insurance, right? Insurance being high. So, reach out to the SI team, reach out to Jim and ask for, hey, they have quotes of the last 50 deals they closed, and they'll show you this is what it costs, for insurance. I think you'll be very, very surprised at how inexpensive the insurance is. The other thing, and this goes for the investor, but also for you guys, maybe to help show the investor, really showing them the impact of what this rate is doing. So I don't think, like, when you guys first started doing it, I was thinking like in a week later, you're not going to have any inventory left. And I know it's a strong statement because you guys just build a lot of homes. But getting a 3.75 versus a 7.75. I'm looking around. I'm like, is my calculator right here? But it's not. But the difference in rate between a 3.75 and a 7.75 or 7% rate, it is night and day. And I mean, a lot of us, even without the we know it, right? We know our primary homes that we're all at 3%, 3.5. And I know all of us in the last three to calculate, well, what would it be today at 7? You're like, oh my God, I wouldn't
Wow.
even buy this house. Whether I could afford it, I wouldn't do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so realizing that you guys are offering those historical lowest rates ever, right? The quantifiable dollar amount, and you guys can calculate and spell that out to someone. Is like, hey, that's like 70 grand worth of a house, where it's this much worth of payment, and I know you guys aren't going to be doing that forever, but that is such a huge opportunity because what you're allowing people to do is enter a market with a brand new construction property that otherwise they would not be able to enter, right? They would not be able to make the returns that they need as an investor if they weren't coming in at the rate. So you guys are creating the opportunity for someone to enter market, which otherwise door would be closed, and I don't think people kind of quite realize that yet, and they still don't. This is such a big buying opportunity with what you guys are doing because we'll probably never see those rates again. I'm in the lending business. I hope I'm wrong, right? Hopefully we're doing this again and rates are 3.5, but I don't see it happening, hope
Mhm.
in our lifetime probably. But yeah, it's a huge buying opportunity. It's allowing, it allowed my brother to purchase in a good area in Florida that's growing, and a brand new property, tenant occupied, where normally if you were just going to buy open market, it wouldn't work,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the
Not without negative cash flow. It would.
exactly. So you guys are creating the opportunity that otherwise doesn't exist for people to be able to buy in Florida and still participate in everything that it has to offer. So I think that's what's amazing, and I think people need to pay attention to that and take advantage of the opportunity while it's still here. And I'll tell you, and for the audience listening, I'm not doing these loans for Jim, right? So there's no vested interest in me coming out here and saying this. I'm building homes in a competing market than Jim
Yeah.
actually. So technically, as of recently, we're competitors, but I still agreed to do this because this is my true experience, right? No matter what other markets I'm investing in, it doesn't change the experience that I've had, in Florida over the last 15 years now, doing the transactions, but not owning the properties. To your point, so much so, as recent as 3 months ago, I sent my brother back, to buy more from you guys, and he's extremely happy.
Yeah. Well, I've appreciated our camaraderie, work together, friendship that's developed over the last 15 years. I'm proud to say you said, how come you haven't interviewed me yet? I think that's the first time I usually ask a client, you said, hey, come on, I'm a client too. And I'm like, holy cow, you're a big client. So, but as a lender, builder, investor, husband, father, race car driver, you know what I mean? You're getting to have quite a cool life. It was fun to, watch you travel the States this last year and do your race car drive and have your family with you while keeping three businesses going. I think that's what it's all about. And you've really encompassed, embodied that successful real estate investor that we go for, that passive income, active freedom. So always a pleasure. Like you know, it's great to see you in Zoom live. Look forward to many more years together. You know, any parting words for the group?
Just kind of writing off your last point, right? Real estate gave me the freedom to chase a dream of being a race car driver, to, putting my wife and my daughter in an RV for 4 months and traveling across the country, racing in different states. By the time she was 1.5, she had been to most of the United States, and she put her feet in lakes and rivers and streams. The other thing I'll say is, when I first invested in real estate 18 years ago, this real estate couldn't have afforded that to me in a year or two, right? The age-old adage, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. As the bulk of my portfolio is now crossed 10, 11, 12 years old, I've really, really started to understand what that means, because, you don't need your rent to double for your cash flow to double, right? Properties I bought with you in Ocala that were rented at 12.95 when I bought them, making great cash flow, now are 17.95, right? So my cash flow went from 200 to 700, and that's just in 6, 7, 8 years. So, don't wait to buy real estate. Know that the numbers that you're basing the investment on typically are year one numbers, right? The year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. Inflation is going to happen around us. And a lot of people, the masses in this country, I don't think really knew what inflation meant till about 4 years ago, but they all know what it means now. And those of us that have had real estate and low rates have really seen the wealth building it can build. So, buy it now. That way you can enjoy the quality of life it's going to give you 6, 8, 10 years from now.
Right.
But yeah, thanks for having me on, and
Um,
thanks for doing a good job at what you guys do, right?
well, we appreciate it, Richard, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Take
Thanks.
care.